Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here from Jamie Rodgers Crafts, and today I thought we'd have a little look at a few ways in which you could get creative with the Forget-Me-Not flower plate. Now I call this on a plate because it's a one die cut that goes through and cuts out all of these separate flowers and decorative pieces to give you the opportunity to build them up. Now I love it when my dies come on a plate like this because it means that I can get more value for money out of my cardstock, because I can place these down on my card and cut them much closer than I normally would be able to with loose dies. I would never normally put two dies that close for fear they would move, but with this plate I can send it through and know that I'm going to get the most value for money out of my cardstock. You should be able to fit this on a traditional A4 at least 4 times because it's approximately A6 in size, giving you those 4 quarters to be able to cut into, giving you quite a lot of value for money and a lot of flowers per sheet. So as I say, I've had an awful lot of questions about how you can build these and what we can create with them, and more how I've done what I've done with them. So I thought we'd go through just a couple of ideas. So I've got a few flowers here to talk you through, and I'm going to focus just on this one panel, but I would repeat these techniques going throughout them. So the first thing I'm going to use is a pair of tweezers. Now this is probably my favourite flower shaping trick. If you just take your tweezers and push back and forth along each petal, and you're going to add in like this little ribbed texture across the tip of them. Now that might not look a lot, and it really isn't, and it's certainly not difficult to do, and you'll certainly speed up the more of them you do, but it actually, once built, gives it a really lovely effect. So carry on round on every petal, just working across them, giving them that little ribbed feeling to them. And then if you want to, you can shape them further from there, but it's all about them little creases, all about that texture that we've gone ahead and put into that one level. When we bring these together and we start layering them between all the different shapes, this is the style of flower we can create. When we place them onto our projects, hopefully you'll agree they look rather special. I've added in the middles and I've added in a little pearl to finish these off. I've also brought in our foliage as well, and this is the Gracious Leaves set. And you'll also spot quite a few other dies from my essential die collection, which of course is available right now. Now to give you a bit more inspiration with that style, let's look at a couple more cards. I'm working today with the Rose Petal Pink Elite cardstock. This one is done from the Seashell Blue cardstock, and you can also see our pinstripe stencil used in the background, as well as our regal corners, and of course that same foliage we just had a little look at. Moving on, another idea for you is to place a self-adhesive sheet over your Rose Petal Pink card and pop over some iridescent glitter to give your flowers some sparkle before shaping and forming them like we just did. You'll also notice again that pinstripe stencil being used in the background, the foliage coming in, and of course the butterflies from this release as well. Then another idea for you is, before you actually start shaping your petals, is to add a bit more detail to them, and this can take on many different forms. On these ones, these are the Potion Purple Elite cardstock cuts. All I've done this time is taken a metallic marker and gone around the edges of the petals. And again, this is something I've had an awful lot of questions about because it really does look like quite a neat trick. And all it is simply taking the marker pen and just drawing just lightly around the sides. You don't have to come all the way down to the middle, because to be honest, once we've started layering on our layers, you're not going to see that. Now you could do this with many different mediums or styles of pen. You could also go ahead and add in some dots if you wanted to. This one's got quite a big point to it, but you could certainly add in some little decorative areas. With this one, we've also got this central piece going on in here that's been debossed into it, so you could potentially highlight that as well. So you could really pick out more details from these if you wish to. But actually for mine, just adding that little halo effect of the line going around the outside of the petals, I found was quite a nice detail. And once built up again, looks quite insignificant on your first level, but when you start layering them together, it really gives you quite a lovely effect. So let's show you a different fold, a different idea for you. So we're bringing another flower, and this time all we're going to do is take it and pinch it. And we're going to work all the way around, just pinching each of the petals and forming them up. Now this can of course be done in the opposite direction as well. You can push them back on themselves and you will end up with quite a 3D flower if you do it that way, because as you build these together, each of the sides will come up and be quite 3D. So if you're worried about postage or costs of doing so, or you're not somebody who likes building boxes, you might prefer to keep them to a more flat style. But either way you pinch them, bringing them forwards or back, will give you a different, unique style to them. And again, when we start layering these together, they look really cool. So let's show you a few of those. On this MDF plaque, I've gone ahead and done exactly the same as what I just showed you, bringing them forwards, added in some foliage. We've of course got our with love on here as well. And we've also got our octagon trellis in the background, which is quite lovely. Bringing them forward this time in our lovely sunbeam yellow cardstock, just shaping them forward, adding in the foliage, a little butterfly and some extra stenciling in the background. This time from polar white cardstock. So again, you can see how the colours really do change the styles, adding in those centres and little gems to finish those off and give them just a little bit of sparkle and shimmer in there. And of course, we've got our lovely butterfly corners from the same release as well. Then bringing in another one, so showing you here exactly how we can bring together that rose petal pink and bringing those together, adding in of course more of our foliage, our regal corners, our striped lines, our happy birthday, and of course just finishing that off with a little butterfly on the top of the project. Then to give you another idea, now this is a more traditional way of forming and shaping them. This one is using an embossing tool and mat, and it again creates a lovely effect. So if we bring in our shape, turn it flat down, bring in a stylus or an embossing tool and simply work round the back of them. Now I'm using quite heavy weight cardstock. This is our elite cardstock. It's the 300 GSM. So when we do this, we actually create these really lovely sort of ripples in the cardstock and shape to it. And I really like that because it gives more interest and shaping to them. If you use a lighter weight cardstock or a paper, you're going to end up more with a seamless curve to it. So again, experiment with what you're cutting out of and how that's going to work for you. But with our elite cardstock, this sort of crumpled look, I think makes them really delicate and really fun. And when we shape these and we start layering them again, you can create some really lovely styles to them. So this is one of the cards I've created with that in mind. Adding again in the center, bringing in that foliage, pinstripe background once again, and a little butterfly to finish this one off. Just bringing all of them components together. Bringing this one in here for you. Again, we've got the flowers going on here with those gracious leaves. Again, layered onto our gorgeous regal corners, but actually just in white, that works really nicely. And you get that texture coming through from that shaping. That's how I really like. If you do go down to slightly lighter weights of papers and cards, then as I mentioned, you get a bit more of a smooth finish. This is actually created using our craft paper, and I've coloured this with some aged mahogany distress inks, but they give a really lovely soft and relatively flat finish to these flowers, which looks really nice. Now, a couple of other ideas for you as well is actually bringing in something along the lines of a paintbrush. This can work quite nicely for you to actually go in and round around that. And then that way, instead of getting the harsh sort of V point, you get more of a U going onto your flowers. And exactly the same as when we pinch them, you can come upwards with your U, or you can go backwards and shape them round. And again, that's going to give you a really different style and a much softer curved finish to each of your petals. So do experiment with that. And another idea for you, just quickly to finish off, and something which I'm sure you've thought of or you've seen before, but this was one of the projects I shared with you a little while ago. This is my 3D tower card. It actually folds down flat, and there is a video showing you how to make this. And this is less about how to shape your flowers, but more about how to use them. Here I've actually glued them together on the petals, on the base layer, and actually created this 3D element and then built up on top of them with more flowers and added the leaves behind them. It's just showing you more how you can create elements that are going to be suspended between pieces. Then the last idea I wanted to share with you, and this comes to us from our incredible DT member, our lovely Lynn Lewis, who's been one of our DT members from the very beginning, and she has created these flowers. Now what she's done is she's taken our straight lines die, which is a cool die because it joins together our corner elements, can also be used to make tartans and backgrounds and chevrons and all different fun things. But she's taken this with a collection of our elite cardstock, cut them out, and using a self-adhesive sheet has placed it onto a piece of card to make this really cool rainbow. And it's got a nice texture to it because you've got the sort of definition between the lines, and of course because they've been cut with a die, you've got that sort of rounded shape that a die creates more than a trimmer. Once she's created this, she's then started die cutting from them and then turned those die cuts into flowers. And I just think these are absolutely stunning. Now, of course, Lynn has gone for several shades of our elite cardstock here. You might wish to tone that back to just working with a couple of different colours to create different styles and effects. But whether it's for your layers, like you can see here, or whether it's for your foliage or your butterflies or your flowers, I just thought that was a really lovely technique and a different way and a different style to what I'd ever seen created before for you to play around with your flowers. Now, I hope that these ideas are going to give you a little bit of inspiration on how you can be playing with the Forget-Me-Not set, the Gracious Leaves, and of course the other elements that you will find within the Essential Die Collection by, of course, Jamie Rodgers Crafts. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to let us know in the comments, and I will do my very best to answer them for you. If you haven't yet found your favourite Jamie Rodgers Crafts stockist to get your hands on these dies and elite cardstock and other products we've mentioned, then pop on to www.jamierodgerscrafts.com and have a little look for the stockist guide. On there you will find bricks and mortar stores and online stores from around the world which stock our products. Once again, if you get stuck or you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.